Hello. Welcome to this week's Private Funds Update. I'm Sandra from SmartEsq. Here's what I learned this week. First up, retail investors are reshaping private markets and institutional LPs are taking notice. In November, ILPA released a white paper exploring the surge of retail capital into private funds. We're talking individual investors, not pension funds or endowments, gaining access through wealth management platforms, tender offer funds, and interval funds. Why does this matter? Retail investors bring different expectations than institutions. They often lack the sophisticated governance infrastructure that large LPs have. They may not understand illiquidity risks or the long-term nature of private equity investments. ILPA's guidance asks GPs some pointed questions. How are you managing liquidity expectations? What's your redemption policy? Are your fee structures appropriate for retail investors who can't negotiate terms? Meanwhile, SEC Commissioner Uyeda recently raised concerns about retirement funds gaining exposure to private investments. He's worried about liquidity mismatches and whether retail investors truly understand what they're getting into. The takeaway? As retail capital grows, expect increased scrutiny on investor protection, disclosure standards, and liquidity management. GPs need to be prepared for a different kind of investor base. Next, a major shift in AI regulation that could reshape compliance for tech-focused funds. On December 11, 2025, President Trump signed an executive order on artificial intelligence that includes a critical provision: federal preemption of state AI regulations. The administration is explicitly seeking to prevent a patchwork of conflicting state laws. Think California's AI safety requirements or Colorado's AI discrimination rules. The executive order signals that federal agencies should establish uniform national standards and potentially preempt state laws that conflict with federal policy. The goal is regulatory clarity and reduced compliance costs. For funds backing AI startups or growth companies, this could be transformative. Instead of navigating 50 different state regimes, portfolio companies would deal with one federal framework. That means lower legal costs, faster product deployment, and reduced regulatory risk. The caveat? Federal preemption faces legal challenges, and states like California are unlikely to back down without a fight. But the signal is clear. The administration wants a unified, innovation-friendly approach to AI regulation. Now let's turn to Delaware, where two recent Chancery Court cases offer contrasting lessons for fund managers. First, the capital call case. Limited partners of a real estate fund challenged capital calls, arguing the GP was improperly deploying their capital. The Chancery Court dismissed the claims entirely. Why? The partnership agreement gave the GP broad discretion over capital deployment and investment decisions. The court's message: if your LPA clearly grants you authority, Delaware will respect that contractual bargain. The takeaway for GPs? Precise drafting of capital call provisions and investment authority is your shield. Now the second case. It involved valuation disputes and allegations of conflicts of interest in a continuation vehicle (CV) transaction. Here, LPs claimed the GP manipulated valuations to benefit itself and breached fiduciary duties. The court allowed these claims to proceed. Why the different outcome? When conflicts of interest are at play, particularly around valuation, Delaware courts will scrutinize GP conduct even when the partnership agreement grants broad discretion. The takeaway? Strong contractual language protects operational decisions like capital calls. But when self-dealing or conflicts arise, especially around valuations, fiduciary duties remain alive. Document your valuation processes meticulously and ensure independence when conflicts exist. Finally, a warning on sanctions risk. On December 2, 2025, OFAC announced two settlements totaling over $18 million regarding indirect dealings with Russian oligarchs. The key takeaway: relying on technical ownership thresholds of less than 50% is not a shield if there is practical control. In one of these cases, a Chicago-based private equity firm faced liability because executives met with the oligarch, giving them reason to know of his involvement despite the opaque ownership structure. OFAC made it clear, You cannot self-blind to bad facts, and legal advice based on incomplete information will not protect you from enforcement. That's it for this week. You can learn more about these topics from me on the SmartEsq platform. If you are curious about the services we offer, please visit www.smartesq.ii.